Hey guys, let me just make sure the audio and everything is set up properly, and then we're gonna get started. Okay, hey guys, welcome back to the lab series. All right, so I know that the last couple of weeks we have sort of taken a break from the lab series itself, and I just want to take a moment to talk about why we needed a break, and what was going on behind the scenes. So I'm just going to do a quick sharing, and then I'm going to get on with the live lab session itself. All right, just a quick note, I put a few important notes in the description for this live session as well. I am currently shooting this live session using a Windows VM, which is honestly running on a rather humble MacBook Pro that I have. So, occasionally during the live session, there could actually be some performance limitations, with regards to my setup here. And this is what I have to work with for now. So just note that sometimes during the live session itself, the software applications might lag a little bit. Lag meaning it might be a little bit slow in terms of refreshing and loading times and so on. And then yeah, so basically another thing that is important to note is that I have recently created a fundraising campaign on Indiegogo. All right, so it's basically an effort to raise money to acquire a custom workstation called orionX by Overclockers UK. So this custom workstation will basically have the hardware requirements that would allow me as a online educator and also the sole person managing this platform right now, be able to do a lot of the things that we are hoping to achieve through online lab series and the things that we promise to deliver. So this custom workstation is sort of like an all-in-one system that will be able to allow me to do all the things that I need. All right. So you can look in the description. There is a link there. All right, that will direct you to our campaign site. So do back us. All right, because we really need the funds. And then on top of that, if you notice that the funding campaign, the number of days left is decreasing. So I have plans to extend the number of days because I honestly feel that it's possible to raise the funds that we seek. The thing is, I have honestly no idea how long it's going to take to reach the target. I have no idea, whether or not we'll reach the fundraising target. But to be honest and really genuine about this, you know, I I would say that I really need the customer station, but then to be to put online lab series in the picture, I will say that online lab series really needs the custom workstation. All right, so yeah, do backers. All right, I mean I really appreciate it, and I will thank those who will make the donations. I will thank you in advance for it. So another thing that I need to highlight in this live session is this. Please note that this is a live session, so we hope to be able to keep it loose, occasionally fun, relaxing. We don't want the session to be too formal, right? So in the last few sessions, I realized that one of the things that I did not do was to keep the session relaxed and fun. I was so focused on trying to make the live session more professional that it honestly is not meant to be that way. And that's the whole thing. I decided that later on is probably part of a good strategy to also introduce like pre-recorded videos after the live session. So these pre-recorded videos will be straight to the point. It would not have a lot of the things that you will probably hear or watch or see during a live session. So those pre-recorded videos will be tied in with the post-session article. So that is probably how it's going to work out. And I have been taking the last couple of weeks to really focus on doing just that and planning out how we're going to deliver that content to you in the best way possible. So that is something that we are working on, and definitely something that we would want to deliver to you. All right. So all these things that we have been talking about, the custom workstation, the Windows VM that I'm using for this live broadcast, and everything that we want to achieve, is really to provide you with the best possible live streaming learning experience. All right, so wherever you are in the world, you could be halfway around the world right now in Europe, but then when you're tuning in, you still be able to experience a live experience, sort of like if you were visiting a workshop physically in your area, right? So that is the whole idea of what we want to do with online lab series, to bring that kind of experience online, right? Now, the fourth and final note before we get into today's session, I just want to highlight as a disclaimer that first and foremost, I am not a 4D systems products expert. The whole idea behind online lab series is that I'll be able to share more about the products that I'm passionate about, and the products or brands, I believe will show a promising future as well as great potential. What I will be doing throughout our lab series is more of a product exploration as well as information sharing experience. However, being a UX and CX thought leader, right, in those two fields I just mentioned, I will be using this lab series to inject my experiences and my knowledge in UX and CX, and then putting it into the IoT smart display designs. So, in the hopes that if you are a maker or inventor, that you are designing products in the future, you will then learn from those UX and CX experiences that I had, and then we will then explore how we can incorporate those UX best practices and CX best practices into the software and into the hardware that we are working with 4D systems. All right, so that's about it. Those are the four important notes that I really want to bring up and talk about. And then over the next few days in the different lab series that we have, I will be rehashing the same notes again because I think it's important for people to understand where we are coming from, and also it's important for our learners to know where we are trying to head, right? Where are we heading towards? All right, so okay, so today's session, what are we going to do? All right, so today we're going to continue our exploration of the Gen 4 smart displays by 4D systems. All right, we will also be taking a look at the workshop for IDE, basically the busy development environment. All right. Now, I'm no expert in the product myself, like I mentioned earlier, though I may have used it for a relatively short period of time on a recent IoT project, Internet of Things project last year. Now, but this lab series will provide us with that perfect opportunity to explore all of its functions and features together, and also to look at how we can make the best of it to design great user experiences. All right, so couple of things that you're going to need for this live session. You will need a Gen 4 display. Yeah, this is based on the Diablo 16 microcontroller. All right, so it's over here. You will need your FFC cable. All right, this is the 30-way FFC cable. All right, it's basically a flexible flat cable. That's what it means, FFC. Or is it a flat flexible cable? All right. So the display, the FFC cable, you will need this 4D UPA programmer, or universal programming adapter. All right. So this 4D UPA, let me just adjust my webcam. Yeah, let me also make sure that you can see it properly. Okay, so this is the 4D UPA. All right, it's the programming adapter that will replace. Let me see if I can focus better. So this is the universal programming adapter that will replace all of the some of the existing adapters that are still around. They are still with the kits, the starter kits, the development kits that comes with their products. And basically this will be the one that will replace it, because on this side you will see that they have the 30-way FFC adapter, the socket. All right, this is for your micro USB. Okay, then when you flip it around, okay, this is actually for their Internet of Displays, their IOD displays. All right, so their IOD displays use a 10-way FFC cable. All right, so today what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the 4Gen display first, and then in future sessions we will eventually look at the IOD display as well. All right, now it's good to probably note that for this system they are actually working on a couple of new products at this point in time. um, I have not heard from them yet on the updates of those products, but once I have the updates, and I know that they'll be sending me some product samples, so I will be doing some project showcases with them as well. All right, so let's get connected. Let's start by connecting the FFC cable with the universal programming adapter. So like in the previous sessions, I always mention this, so I'm just going to repeat it again. Some of you might find it annoying if you've been following, and like Sherman, I know this. Okay, so one thing is important to note is that when you are plugging in the FFC cable, you need to make sure that it's pushed all the way in. All right, I'm just going to remove again. All right, so you can see that most of the length of the edge of the FFC cable is all the way in. There will still be a little bit left that's protruding out of the socket. That's fine. All right. So make sure that you push the lock all the way in. All right. So you can. I'm not sure I can focus this close enough, but I think you'll be able to see that it's all the way. All right, to the socket, the side of the socket. All right. So the next thing that we want to do is we are going to plug in the cable to our Gen 4 display. All right, if you're getting the Gen 4 display for the first time, just to share, this is where you put in your micro SD card. All right, the display itself is compatible with up to, I think, 16 GB micro SD card. I think if you go above that, they only can use a portion of the micro SD card. So honestly, there's no point. So my recommendation is that normally a 8 GB micro SD card should be more than enough if you are designing a smart display. Because even with 8 GB, like if you're using the IOD, you probably use the micro SD card to store images, to store logs. And then, when you want to sync the IOD display with a node server or a web server, then, honestly, the data can be transferred to your main server and you can sort of erase it and you can reuse the space. So honestly, 4 GB, 8 GB is more than enough. All right, and especially when you design graphics, images, which I'm going to show you later in the workshop for IDE. When you design graphics and all that, it's good to try and keep the image resolution. Well, it should be high for good user experience. Honestly, I'm going to recommend it should be well designed. The thing is this: you can design the image for a bigger size, like a bigger dimension in terms of pixels, and then in the display itself, you can reduce it to a smaller size because of the resolution. Then another thing about this UX portion is that you can use uh, PNG. PNG is actually it takes a faster time to load PNG images as compared to JPEG. All right, but normally that is actually for web applications and mobile applications. I have never tried PNG with IoT displays yet. So that is probably something that we can look into and explore in future sessions as well. Okay, so here over here you will see this is actually the um, socket, the FFC socket for the display itself. All right, so we're going to connect that to our FFC cable. Same thing, guys. Always remember when you're plugging this in, make sure that it's all the way in. All right. Okay, so once it's all the way in and when you push in, you will notice that there is this small little indentation over here, all right, because the cable is being pushed flat onto the display, right? That means that your FFC cable is secure. Okay, I'm going to get the micro USB cable. I think it's good to note that, guys, most of the live sessions for online lab series can take sometimes 1+ hours, sometimes shorter, sometimes it could be even longer as well. So just take note of that. So I was working on something previously a couple of weeks ago. So that is what we are looking at right now on the screen. Okay, so yeah, it still works. That's nice. So anyway, yeah, I'm going to just switch the screen over to the desktop. Okay, so recently, I kind of, the whole VM hang, and then it crashed. So I couldn't really do anything about it. I had to reinstall and reset up everything. So you can see from my desktop, really there's not a lot of things right now on the desktop itself. But I did install the Workshop 4 IDE. I have reached out to the 4D Systems team to sort of ask them for the Pro license, but I haven't heard back from them. But what I have here, you can still use the free edition as well. So for today's session, we probably will not go into some of the Pro features here. I think that if you look at this, probably the resolution might not be as sharp as if it was on a physical Windows workstation. Let me just tune into my own live broadcast and see what happens. Okay, so well, on my phone it does appear to look okay. So I hope that what you guys are seeing is all right as well. Okay, so this is the IDE, and then we will start by creating a new 4D Systems project. Okay, so something that I want to highlight and something that I experienced, over the last few weeks when I was working with 4D Systems, when you select your display type, right, when you're choosing the product, this is also probably a good feedback for the product team who's designing this Photoshop for IDE. One thing that I noticed is that if I were to select a wrong display for my project and I start working on the project, later on, when I'm inside the project itself, when I'm in the IDE, when I'm trying to change the display, somehow or rather, the settings and configurations seems to be wrong, and then it's a little bit hard to sort of program the device after that. So I'm not too sure. I guess I can share this offline with them, but I just want to highlight that at this point in time, if you are using Workshop for IDE, I'm using on a VM, right? So when I'm using on a VM, my display lags. So when I try to scroll up and down on my own Mac environment, it's very smooth when I try to scroll things. But when I'm on my Windows VM, when I scroll, it's not as sensitive to the scrolling gesture on my Magic Mouse. So yeah, I think that is important to note something like that. I haven't used a dedicated Windows workstation for a while, so I honestly can't remember what I don't know what the experience is going to be like using Workshop for IDE on Windows. So yeah, again, please back my campaign. I honestly look forward to being able to work on this video streaming and the video production and everything on a Windows workstation. All right. So anyway, we're going to select this, the 4.3-inch resistive touch. All right. So DT means resistive touch. If it's DCT, this is capacitive touch. All right. Next. Okay, so the last few sessions, we have been looking at the VZ Genie, and I showed how easy it is to use the VZ Genie to just drag and drop widgets onto your display environment, and then just compile it and let it run. So that was quite straightforward. So we're going to choose VZ to maximize the display. Okay, so this is what you're going to see for the very first time when you are launching your VZ IDE. Okay, so if you have been following my live sessions, you already know what are some of the panes that are available. how to show and hide them and so on. And I also talk a little bit about this paste code and paste all code functionality before. So when you drag and drop items widgets onto this display, I will call it what you see is what you get display, all right, the form. When you drop it onto the form, you can either paste the code of that particular selected widget, or you can just drag everything in and then click on paste all code, and it will basically paste all the code onto your uh, editor. All right. So let's get started. Again, my mouse is a little bit sensitive, so sometimes if the scrolling goes off, is hypersensitive or not sensitive, just be patient with me, guys. Okay, so earlier I was talking about graphics and images that you can load onto the micro SD card, right? So those images can actually be used within the design of your smart displays as well. So a couple of weeks ago, I sort of tried to create a sort of like a background. I created a gradient background, just a very simple gradient background, just to demonstrate that you can add backgrounds into your forms. All right. Now, another thing that I need to highlight, especially if you are new to 4D Systems products, or you are checking out the brand, you're checking out the products, and you want to know more about it. Let me just share this with you because I think this is really, really important. Unlike building an application on a desktop environment or building an application on a web site or mobile app, a lot of the widgets that you drag onto the interface, they sort of form like layers. So there'll be one layer on top of another and so on. However, in this environment, in this display environment, how it works is that they load by frames. Frames, if you think of it like a movie, right? When people are shooting the movie, when the director is shooting the movie, basically it's just still images, many still images, all line up together, back to back, so that when you go through the still images, it looks as if the actors or the actresses are actually moving. The picture itself. It's kind of like when we were young and we were in school, we would draw this skeleton guy on the corner of the pages of our textbook. Then we'll flip the pages and you'll see kind of like the skeleton guy doing something. I still remember doing that when I was young. So that is kind of like how this display works. So you need to note that if you need to design any complex user interactions, say for example, when a user presses a button, you want the button to do some action, like indentation, bevel, you want it to show like it's being pressed, and you're using a button design, a graphic that is not with the default widget template. So taking that into consideration, you will need to design your own graphics for it. All right. So just take note of it. Kind of like um, switching an image. I think the best way I can describe this is coming from my background building web applications before. Sometimes you have a button graphics. The button graphics, we have what we call the standard, the unpressed state. And then sometimes you have a button designed for the pressed state. So maybe in an IoT environment, you might want to have a button designed for like the unpressed state as well as the pressed state. So those are the things that you would need to think about. All right. So another thing that I can share for the benefit of those of you that are watching and you are non-technical folks, yeah, just remember that everything that is being rendered onto this display, anything that you create, whether is it a background or is it a button or is it a gauge, at the end of the day, when it's being compiled and sent to the flash memory of the smart display, everything becomes like it becomes a single image, right? So that is what it is. Okay, so I've been talking a lot about that. I'm going to drink some water. While I'm doing this, I just want to talk a little bit about my MacBook right now. Honestly, my MacBook is the fan is making a lot of noise. I've been complaining about this for the last few weeks, in fact. And honestly, there just isn't is a solution to available solution to optimize my workstation, my MacBook, because the hardware, the specs, that's what I've been given in the specs. And it's sometimes a little bit scary when I'm doing live streaming using my MacBook and a Windows VM, because the fan would at one point become so loud that I'm quite afraid that my MacBook would literally explode. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I kind of really needed the custom workstation. Okay, let's get back into the session. Let's do something like a digit. Let's. Okay, so one of the things I realized that is convenient and easy. Normally in an IDE environment, I come from a software engineering background, so I'm very familiar with IDEs. All right, so um, if you are someone that is technical and you're coming into this user interface for the first time, let me just tell you this first. The drag and drop, from my experience, doesn't always work. Sometimes you can get it, but sometimes it doesn't. So if you at one point, if for you the drag and drop does not work or it's probably having a bug, what I would suggest that you do is just click on the widget. You see, this is what I was talking about earlier. Okay, so when you click on the widget, it will show that the widget is selected. Just go to your form where you want to place the widget. Just click on it. Right, so when a particular widget on your form is selected, you will see this um, red dash lines bordering it. All right, to show that it's selected. So you can change this to LD. Okay, so one good thing that I'm going to teach you, especially if you're new to working with development and coding interfaces, this is also sort of a best practice, because if you are the only maker, you're creating this to create a new invention of your own, you might not think that it's important. But if it's a group setting or if you're building a very complex and big project, it's always important to remember to name your widgets with something meaningful. All right, so kind of like a good guideline I can give, depending on the widget that you're using. For example, this widget is called LED digits, right? So that's the name of the widget. So what I'll do is I'll usually take the abbreviation, the first letter of each word that makes sense, like L and D, all right, and I'll use that as the initials, the prefix, to name my widget. All right, and then I would give a meaningful name to the widget itself, because later on, as the code gets more and more complex and your project gets bigger and bigger and bigger, you'll realize that you need to name it properly. Because if you don't name it properly, if I just say, for example, I just name it as T, maybe today I would know what T represents, but 6 months from now, 9 months from now, after I work on other projects and I come back to this, I'm going to forget what T is. And it's going to be a problem trying to sort of look through the maybe 2,000 lines of codes to kind of figure out where T originated from and where T is being called and used. So always remember, it's always a good practice to name it a good naming convention. All right. So whether is it you that is working on it, or if you're passing this project to someone else to work on it, they will be able to recognize and understand the name of the widget. All right. So the next thing that you can do is let's see. Right. So you can set the color of the background of the widget. Right. Depending if you are working with some graphics in the background, you probably want to set the colors accordingly. All right. One thing that I do realize that I want to feedback to the product team also is that You guys probably should want to include a transparent alpha element for the colors. All right, so the alpha, the transparency, opacity is probably a really important feature that is lacking right now. And from a UX perspective, for a developer, a designer, as well as the end user of the display, there should be a transparency opacity setting. But yeah, I searched all over and I cannot seem to find the transparent. Let's see if there is anything transparent. Yep, there's no transparency. So guys, please take note of that. This is just a feedback on what can be improved on. But yeah, for now, let's keep the background as black color for this lab session. The next thing that you can do is to change the color of the LED digits. So there's a high and a low. I would assume that the high here represents, the reading of the temperature, and then low will represent the reading of the temperature, in this case, the LED digits. So, say online lab series has a sort of a color. Oh yeah, another thing, guys. If you want to allow hexadecimal hex for the color, right? It's good to have a field that allows us to enter the exact color code that we want, right? Because I don't remember the RGB for the color that I use for online lab series. Anyway, yeah, it's just nice to have, but it's good to put it there, really, right? So, okay, anyway, I will just select this color for now. Okay, and maybe for the low, I would want to choose red. Okay, this is the thing that I want. Low. Okay. Okay, if you are looking at this, let me maximize this for a little while. Right, this low is this little segment over here. But why does it have to be like that? Now, there's probably no reason, I don't know. But for me, when I think about a design of a UI, when I think about a display, I always like to question why. Why does this particular, say this segment in this case, have to be considered as low? What is the intended purpose and why is it meant to be like that? So, as we go along with this lab series, with more sessions that we have, we're going to explore and we're going to answer all of these questions that I have, questions that you might have. Then we're just going to explore all of the different possibilities together. So, okay. So now, yeah, I guess I just want to put it as the same color. Okay, so let's leave this here. Let's go ahead and add a button. Okay, today is probably a good day. Yeah, the drag and drop is responding quite well. There are times where I do the drag and drop and it doesn't work at all. It's just annoying. So it's good to remember that. Another thing I realized is some of the buttons doesn't allow me to sort of restart unless I select, which is a kind of okay. You can select scale, so you can select. Yeah, so okay, if you allow scale, one thing you need to take note is that uh, you need to recognize when the user click the shift key on the keyboard and they try to drag. Otherwise, I can put any size I want, which is weird and ugly. So please take note, if you want to allow scale for round images, just make sure that the shift keyboard key is recognized when they're scaling it. Okay, we'll just stick with this for the A64 button one. So there are a couple of button options that we can select. Okay, looks quite. Okay, I also have another question. Like, if I am using this button and there are already other rocker buttons available, so what would this be for? I don't know. I feel like I'm questioning the product team right now, like a critic. But yeah, this is kind of what I usually do, right, as a UX professional. I sort of would question a lot of the things that I see. Are they really necessary? Why do we need it? If we have it, can it be done better? Okay, this is probably nice. Okay, so I want to take this time to talk something about UI and UX for smart displays. One thing that I notice, some people, outside when I go into a mall or I'm anywhere looking at a smart display somewhere, you know, not everybody gets it right, which is funny because UX is honestly sometimes a pretty logical thing. I'm not saying that people have no logic. I'm sorry, but yeah, but it's really a logical thing. It's common sense. When you read a book, when you read something, when you look at the display, you always read left to right, top to bottom. You seldom read right to left unless you are in a culture like in Arabic, right? In the Arab countries, the Arab region, because of their language, they tend to write from right to left. So only in that culture and that context, your smart displays should be catered to them in that form, right? And then of course, when you design displays, usually you need to provide multilingual settings. When they are setting up the display for the first time, clearly, if you are the product designer, it wouldn't make sense for your customers to have to go through the technical side to set up the display. Say if you are designing a display for them, you should create the setup process for them. Right? What I mean by that is that when they load the display, they power on the display for the very first time after you have created it, they would be able to just immediately select the language that they want to use for the display. And then when they selected the language, when the display is loaded for the first time with all the gauges and digits and everything would already be left aligned or right aligned depending on their culture. All right, so just take note of that tip. I think this is a really important one that you should apply into your project designs. Okay, so in this case, my digit is on the left hand side because I know that my user for the display is going to be from left to right. All right, and then for buttons, I will put it at the bottom on the left because I would usually read an information first, and then I want to do a particular action. So if you observe a lot of home appliances, you observe a lot of devices, electronic devices, they have a lot of the power buttons sort of positioned at the bottom of the product itself. That's usually the design because I guess as you go along in as things evolve and technology gets more advanced, the human psychology still remains the same. We operate on things based on what we can remember and recognize. So we take references. So when we look at a smart display, we usually would remember how we operate on a, say, a mobile device, right? So the way you operate on a mobile device or any smart displays in your home, that is also going to be how you probably interact with this smart display as well, right? Okay, so we will then add some inputs. Okay, so maybe we won't call this temperature. Let me think of something interesting. What can I call this? I'll call it decibels. So um, we can use this. And then this track bar, I like the track bar because the track bar is a good way to work with the digits. All right. Okay, in this case, because it's decibels, we don't need the decimal place. We can set it to 3 digits. Okay, so another way that if you sort of want to design your interface, you can actually put your digits on, let me see. Okay, for this track bar, let me see if there's orientation. Okay, so another alternative for the track bar is that you can put it at the bottom. You can place your digits to the right. No, actually, I think you should put it still to the left. And put your rocker button at the top right hand corner. So that is a bit like product design. The same thing as if you were to work if you were to create a physical product, the switch would likely be on the top right hand side. All right. So for the track bar, we can of course put it at the bottom as well. But in most cases, if you remember, track bars are a bit like the volume controls for a sound mixer, right? So horizontal, not a lot of use cases, honestly. Top down is more likely to be the one. Right? So let's just say that we want to change the color. Okay, let's say track bar for. Okay, we use the same thing, same naming convention, right? PB. Let's just say sound or volume. Let's call it wave because sound is usually related to wave, right? We can change the background to black. The tick colors we can change to white. Let's see. Again, my Windows PM is always a bit laggy. So you can basically customize everything about your track bar. Alright, so we will try to play around with it as well. Let's do like a nice color for this. gutter color. Let's change to make this bigger. Oh, it looks quite nice actually. So cool, interesting. Okay, most sound because I've worked with people who are sound engineers. They usually find that green color is usually the best. But one of the things that I think would be nice is, as they are moving the track bar up, depending on the value that is displaying, you can change the colors, right? So it signifies because we are all visual animals. We tend to remember based on the colors of what we are working on. That is something you can take note as well. Let's see if we can. Hmm, inner shadow, outer shadow. Okay, so there are so many things we can work with, right? I'm just okay. That is not a very nice color. Yellow. Try a darker yellow. Because we are using green. Sorry. How does it look? Sometimes if you really want to test whether your widgets looks okay, what you can do is you can just enlarge it temporarily. Because the bigger it is, the much better you can visualize and see what it looks like. Then, one of the things I've ever figured out is the for the button on the track bar. How do I change the color? I'm just going to try something. See what happens. Okay, that's not it. Can undo. I think the undo is only for the code. Okay, anyway, let's just stick with that for now. Okay, so decibels. I might probably want to change it back to green. It seems a lot more appropriate. Maybe use white. Okay, something that you probably should take note. You need to select OK. But I would think that once I selected the color that I want, oh yeah, because I'm closing the interface and not selecting OK. So okay. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do now, as I was sharing earlier, we will probably need to uncomment some coding. Okay, so based on the coding, okay, I'm not a ODGL expert, to be honest. I'm still learning a little bit about it and in getting familiar with it myself. So um, some of the coding that I see here, I still have no idea what they are doing. But I guess eventually as the lab series continues and goes on, we'll eventually get better at it together. We'll become a lot better at it. All right, and we'll explore all the different capabilities that 4DGL has. Okay, so normally when I want to insert the displays, okay, I think it would be good to put it after all the initialization. So what you see here, this set of codings, they are all what we call initialization coding. This initialization blocks basically is setting up the hardware and telling the display, okay, I need to load this file, get ready, I'm about to run this program, and then eventually what do you want to render on the display itself, the widgets that you want to display and set up, you put it all here. Okay, so one way you can do things is that you can select one particular item on your display, and then let's make sure we selected. And then you can choose paste code. So once you have pasted the code, it will then be displayed here. Right, it will add the coding for you. This is something that I like about this, and also from my back in the day, kind, I kind of uh, I'm a bit familiar with this because of my background in software engineering, and I used to learn about this Microsoft Visual C++ MFC. It's still a desktop application kind of development around. Quite complex to learn anyway. I never really enjoyed it. Okay, so we can paste the code for the LED. Hmm. Okay, actually we can use this. Because previously I was working with the VCGNE environment. So the VCGNE environment, if you watch those videos, the live sessions, you'll know that you only need to drag and drop the widgets, and then you need to tie up the event handlers, and that's it. All right. But here in this case, we are doing by coding. So it's partly drag and drop, and there's also the coding interface. Now this use case is good. This environment is good for folks that want to design the interface and then be able to customize the coding um, by hand, right? So honestly, for beginners who just want to design and you have no programming background, you don't want to learn programming, I would suggest you go with a busy Genie environment. But if you are a developer or you're a hardware developer and you're building a product, you're making a product, then especially an IT guy, I would suggest that you use this environment because it's much more customizable. As in, you get to work with a lot more things. There are more options, more controls, more control over how you want the display to go. I think that's the word that I want to say. So the one thing that I never did in the past is that when I unselect everything on my display, my form, I never paste code of the form itself. So let me see if this will create anything. Oh, nothing. Ah, Okay, let's do the button. Okay, let's change this. Normally for buttons, the naming convention, you just use BTN. It's universally recognized and every developer will know what it means. So it's good to use BTN if it's a button. BTN switch. Uh, let's call it display switch. And the next thing we can do is we can paste the code into our editor. Now, today's session, my goal is not to go through the 4DGL coding and we start programming. That's not the objective today. Today, I just want to show you the interface and just a quick getting started, of how you can set up your display, customize your widgets, and then copy the code pasting the code onto the editor, right? I would think that this would work, but I can be wrong because I'm still learning about 4DGL, like I was saying. Anyway, let's save this. Let's save the project. Oh, as it turns out, I still have my previous folders. Okay, that's good. Anyway, let's create a new project for this. Let's call it busy getting started. Okay, so once you have saved your project, you'll notice that under the file load image control, it will basically look for the name of the project, the output that after we have compiled it. Okay, so now what we want to do is we're going to take the memory card that you've seen earlier from the micro SD card from the display, and we're going to put it into a, if you have a memory card reader, use that. And I'm going to insert mine into my MacBook. Oh man, my USB hub is heating up because I have multiple cables connected. USB drive F, okay. So we will delete the previous program files that are already inside. Okay, now we can compile and load. Hmm. Is it connected? Yeah, it is. Let's try to connect my display again. Hmm. Okay, let me try and restart the program. Let's search for device manager. Okay, so there's no driver. CP2104 USB. Actually, there is the driver, I think, on the 4D Systems website. Let's look for that. Okay, so you might notice that in our lab series, we do cover basic stuff. Ultimately, there's a really long lab series where we're gonna do it over an entire year, right? So the goal and objective is simple. We don't want to just jump into the practical applications without first equipping you with the basic knowledge of how the product works, how to use the environment. It's simple. It's just like you are attending a physical course outside, and you are attending once a week. So basically, you will start same thing from the basics round up, and then eventually we'll go into more advanced topics, features, functions. Then we'll talk about use cases and project idea explorations, and so on and so forth. Okay, so there's the driver. So I'm just going to remove my USB cable for the uh, display. Oh, I actually had the driver installed, but anyway, I'm just going to use this. Okay, let's extract it. Anyway, if I have it here, okay, so it's done. Let's connect our USB cable. It should detect the hardware now. Great. Okay. So notice that on my um, laptop, it's running on COM 4. COM 4, right? For you, it could be a different COM port. So it's good to take note. All right. Okay. Let's go back to workshop 4 IDE. Okay. Let's open up the project that we just created. Okay. Let's do compile and load. Hang on a second. COM 4. Hmm. Okay, so once it's blue color, it shows that means that everything is okay and it's good to go. All right. You will select drive F. Hmm. Okay. Okay, so let's remove the drive. Oh, okay, I think there's an error. Let's save the project. Let's compile. Oh, why is it y minus 34? So this is one of the things that I find annoying as a developer. Um, Sometimes when you build a project, it's good to give meaningful names to the variables. Otherwise, for someone who's never used it before, will obviously have a pretty challenging time trying to guess what this means. I'm guessing that this Y is actually the Y position of the trackbar button. But I mean, I could be wrong. That's the thing, right? Let's just set Y equals to some number for now. At least we get rid of the error first. Okay, let's just remove the Y and put a 200. It is normally not what I would recommend doing, but in this case, I just want to get rid of the error first. Now you can look at the 40jar reference. I think it will teach you how to set up variables and how to declare variables and define them and so on. Um, but yeah, in this case, I think the reason why it's having an error is because let's just take a look at the 4DGL coding. Okay, so all these reference documents, program manuals, you can find it under the relevant products. Oh, yeah. Variables, constants, page 10. Okay, so that's how we set a number. Okay, so let's do uh, okay. So when I set something to 0, it's just basically to give you a default number, default value. Honestly, I actually have no idea what the Y really means. What is a Y representing? Still errors. Okay, so that I think there's one more header that we need to include. That's not in it. Let's go to the VZGenie documentation. Oh, VZ, sorry, not VZGenie, VZ. Sometimes I still get tongue-tied and I still say it wrongly. So we are going to the VZ user guide. We'll go to like near the bottom. I remember they have an example code. Yeah. So this is actually a very good example code that we can use. All right. Copy this, put it into our code. So we can set the state. Let's just give the state as initial default 0. Well, probably 0 means probably it's not triggered. It hasn't been triggered. And 1 would be when you have triggered it, meaning the display is on, operations is on. You're going to start something. Something has started, right? If we compile it now, we should be getting 0 errors. Great, awesome. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to the hardware mode for this live stream in a moment. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Just give me a second, guys. Okay, I know you're seeing it as inverted, so just give me a moment. So once the program files have been loaded into the micro SD card, the first thing you need to do is you will need to put it into the micro SD card slot. All right. Let me just try and position it. Okay, let me. Okay, it should load the display, but hmm. Huh. Oh, sometimes for some reason I still can't seem to get it correct. I'm not sure why. Let me try if I can get this again. Let me try just download. Okay. We're going to try and compile the app again. I'm going to load the program into the flash memory. Okay. Let's try to download it. Hmm. sometimes I seem to get it with one try. Sometimes I just have to try it a few times. Um, okay, it says that the drive is not mounted, so let's mount the drive. Okay. I got no idea why it's not loading. Oh yes, it's done. Wait. Okay, so uh, we haven't programmed it to interact with our touch. So at the moment we can't really do anything. Okay, but in the next session, all right, we'll start looking into the coding, the FortiGR coding, and how we can deal with interactions and so on. And I'm going to spend the next few days before next week's session, next Monday session, to also pick up more on the FortiGR programming. And then next week I'll be back, and then we can start working with the FortiGR coding, and then customizing our UI displays as well. All right. Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Let me know what you think about the video and what you feel you have seen and learned right in this session. And then, share with me your thoughts, right? If you have used the 4D Systems products before, you're using it right now, or you're actually thinking of getting their products. Um, is there something that you like to understand more about? Do you have something that you like me to explore in the next session? Do leave it in the comments below. All right, and let me know. Okay, thank you very much. See you next week, guys. Bye.